The last thing that we're going to talk about that organisms require is reproduction. So they have to have some sort of way to pass on their genetic material to the next generation. So in order to survive, because if they can't pass on their genetic material and create another generation, then all life would die out. So organisms require an energy source to survive, a habitat to survive, and then also reproduction. There's two major types of reproduction. You have asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual means not sexual. And so in asexual reproduction, you do not combine different DNAs. So asexual reproduction only requires one individual, and the offspring from that individual are exact genetic copies of the parent. So for example, bacteria. When a bacteria divides and creates two bacteria, that is an asexual form of reproduction. There's no new genetic material introduced into that bacteria before it divides and makes two bacteria, and that offspring bacteria is the same as the parent bacteria. So it is an exact genetic copy. There is no variability in a population that comes from asexual reproduction. They are all genetically identical. So here's an example of asexual reproduction. It's cellular fission, like what a bacteria would do. And this is the process of mitosis that hopefully you remember from freshman year again. So here you have one single cell, okay, and it divides into two cells, okay, and then those two cells divide and become 4 cells. There is no new genetic material added here, and so these 4 cells down here at the end are have the exact same genes as the one that you started with. So it's asexual reproduction. All single-celled plants and animals will do this type of reproduction. So all single-celled plants and animals will do this. This also happens in your body, in your non-reproductive cells. So in your skin cells and the cells in your stomach, okay, and in your intestines, and all of the cells in your body, pretty much, except for either your ovaries or testes, will do this process of cellular fission. So it is the process of mitosis that you learned about, hopefully, in freshman bio. Another form of asexual reproduction is called multicellular fission. There are actually anemones in the ocean that will do this. And they basically take one single anemone, one animal here, and it divides and becomes 2 anemones. Okay? So that anemone pretty much pulls apart and becomes 2 anemones. And it's a type of asexual reproduction, and it's called multicellular fission. And this picture right here on the bottom right, it might be kind of hard for you to see, but this is the outline of the anemone, and it's actually splitting down right about here to create 2 new anemones. But again, no new genetic information presented, so it is asexual reproduction. You also get budding, which is another type of asexual reproduction. That's when you get a mini animal that is growing on the side of the adult. So it's like a little clone that grows out of the side of the adult, like a little mini-me. And then the new individual falls off and walks away, quote unquote, because it doesn't necessarily walk. But you can see that in this picture right here. Okay, so you get like a little bud that forms. Okay, it creates a little mini anemone, and then that anemone falls off and creates a new anemone. Again, no new genetic information, asexual reproduction. So sea anemones will do this, and then you also get like corals and sponges that will do this as well. And you can see here the little baby buds that are growing off of an adult anemone. Another type of asexual reproduction would be fragmentation. Okay, fragmentation is when an organism is broken into pieces, either on purpose or because it's damaged from a storm. And so coral will do this, and in a storm, you'll get like a piece of coral that will get broken off by the storm, and that piece that gets broken off can actually grow and become a new individual. So to kind of like give you a comparison between fragmentation and budding, Budding would be like if you could grow like another little you off your side and then it drops off and becomes another little baby you running around. That would be like budding. And fragmentation would be like you chopping off your hands and your hand growing into a new you. So that's the difference between the two. In sexual reproduction, you get two individuals. You need a male and a female. And the offspring in sexual reproduction are genetically different than the parents because you combine two different genetic materials. So the offspring are genetically different than the parents, and so you actually get genetic variability in a population that comes from sexual reproduction as opposed to asexual reproduction. There are several different kinds of gender options when it comes to sexual reproduction. You have the gender option of being either being single-sexed and being born as either male or female, and then in a single-sexed individual, you don't change during your lifetime. You're either born male and you stay male your whole life, or you're born female and you stay female your whole life. Examples of these kinds of animals would be things like mammals, so like seals and sea lions and walruses and even you, okay, are a single-sexed individual. And then you also have like birds, like seagulls, and lobster are actually single-sexed. So picture of a elephant seals, which are single-sexed. You also have the gender option of being a simultaneous hermaphrodite. That's a form of sexual reproduction. And a simultaneous hermaphrodite will have both male and female organs at the same time. So they are both male and female at the same time. And both the male and female reproductive organs work at the same time. So they work at the same time in the same individual. Examples of this would be barnacles and also sea hares. It's good, like animals that are these types of hermaphrodites are this way for a reason. So like barnacles, when they settle down onto rocks, they literally cement their head to a rock and then they do not move for the rest of their life. If they were single-sexed individuals, if a male barnacle settled and then all male barnacles settled around it, it would not be able to reproduce because males can't reproduce with males. So by being simultaneous hermaphrodites, a barnacle can settle down, and it doesn't matter what barnacle settles around it, it will be able to reproduce with it because it is male and female at the same time. So it's a good thing. You also have a sequential hermaphrodite. A sequential hermaphrodite is a type of creature that is born as one gender and then switches to the other later in its life. A sequential hermaphrodite can mate as both genders. So they can mate when they're male and then become female. They can mate again as a female. Or if they're born female and switch to male, they can mate as both male and female as well. So typically, the creatures that tend to do this, they do this because it helps to increase their reproductive success by allowing for them to make more babies by switching. So that's a good thing for them. So you can have sequential hermaphrodites. Examples of this is the California sheep's head, the anemone fish like Nemo, if you ever saw Finding Nemo, and several other species. But the pictures on the bottom are just to show you that when a fish switches gender, it can actually switch appearance. So the picture on the left is actually the female version of the California sheep's head, and then the picture on the right is the male California sheep's head. And then you can also have a parasitic male as a gender option. This is weird. This happens in the deep sea. This is basically where it's very hard to find a mate. And so anglerfish do this. And what happens is the male will actually scent chemicals that the female gives off, and he will follow that chemical trail to the female. He will bite at her belly, and then his skin and stuff will literally fuse to the female's body, and he will lose all of his organs except for his testes, and then will become a parasite on the female for the rest of his life. So when the female is ready to reproduce, she's got a ready and willing partner to be able to reproduce, but literally the male is a parasite. Her blood flows through his veins. She gives him all the nutrients, and that, yeah, he is literally a parasite on her for the rest of his life. And so you can see the picture at the bottom, that's a female anglerfish, and then see the red circle that is encircling the male of the species. So those are the different gender options for sexual reproduction. So you've got asexual and sexual reproduction that can occur. And we've just gone over all of the different kinds of reproduction that can occur that are either sexual or asexual.